boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this weekend in Orlando, Florida. The lightweight division's IBF champion Beatriz Ferreira will be returning to action on what is a most valuable prospects show against an unbeaten up-and-comer by the same last name in Maria Ferreyra. But the fight seems very much a layup to me, a stay-busy fight. And that's what Beatriz needs to do right now, just stay busy. Stay busy wherever she can, since unification matches are not readily available. Terry Harper just fought in her native Doncaster. She hasn't been having any luck with Caroline Dubois, and Stephanie Hahn is already booked. She's got a fight coming up. So at this point, all Beatriz can do is stay active, stay busy. 32 years old. Sporting a professional record of 6 wins with no losses, no draws, 2 knockouts. I want to say she's been with Matchroom for about 2 years now, but I don't think it helped her situation that she went back to the Olympics while with Matchroom, and while she did medal, that seems to have done very little for her profile, for how well known she is. She'll be facing Maria Ferreira, who sports a professional record of 11 wins with no losses, 1 draw, 6 knockouts. More knockouts than Beatriz, but don't let that fool you. Maria's quality of competition is a lot more pedestrian than what you see from Beatriz. Last in action in December of last year, opposite the ring, Lisbeth Crespo, who Maria decisioned over 10 rounds. Same applies to Beatriz. She was last in action in December of last year, opposite the ring, France's own Licia Budersa, who she also decisioned over 10 rounds. Matchroom seems to have rented out Beatriz to MVP, and MVP has her headlining the show. It's pretty novel that she's headlining a show on MVP where she's never headlined anything at Matchroom. That's unusual. She's been with them for about 6 fights in the last 2 years. Every fight that she's had so far has been under the Matchroom banner, but I don't know that she continues with them. Ellie Scottney didn't. Alicia Baumgartner didn't. Ramla Ali didn't. I think about that, and I think about how Terry Harper, a champion at this same weight, her last fight was not on a Matchroom show. Beatriz's next fight is also not on a Matchroom show. I wonder if she continues with them, or will she make the same move that Ellie Scottney and Alicia Baumgartner made? Will she migrate over to MVP? It might not be a bad idea. There's nothing wrong with sticking it out at Matchroom. There's nothing wrong with staying there, but I wonder if she doesn't make that same decision, if she doesn't make that same move. This weekend's fight seems very much a layup fight to me. So I expect her to win. Down there in Orlando, Florida, I expect Beatriz to do what she normally does and look like what she normally looks like. An animal. But after that, it's sort of an ominous forecast. What comes next for Beatriz Ferreira? Hopefully unification matches, but we'll see.
Me, my advisor, my lawyer, Turki, and his people. It's really about 9 of us. And we were in this room, we just talking boxing, but it's really kind of based around me. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Long story short, he just asked me like, yo, Key, who would you like to fight?
Yeah. Who you said? What's the first name you said, nigga? Who was the first name?
T.O.
Yo,
T.O.
We need
I
that.
said T.O. gang. Well, I said 3 other people. I said T.O., Isaac Cruz.
Yep.
And I said one more person. I forgot who the other person was, honestly. When I said T.O., his eyes lit up. He's like, you want to fight T.O.?
Oh.
You want to fight T.O.? You want to fight T.O.?
Right.
So, boom. I'm like, he said, you want to fight T.O.? I fight T.O.? I'm like, yes, I'm going to fight T.O. Like, he trying to see if I'm dead serious. I'm like, yes, I'm going to fight T.O. You know what I'm saying? He said, call T.O. Put him on the phone. Call T.O.
Oh, shit. I like her. I like how this nigga moving. Yeah, I told him.
Yeah, right?
And yet some people still find the time to complain about Turki Alalshikh and what fights he's putting together and where they're happening, that they're happening in Saudi as opposed to happening here. When he tries to put together a fight between a Lopez and a Haney, or a Lopez and a Davis. Keyshawn Davis, who in so many words is saying that fight was offered to Teofimo and he wanted to focus on boots, and we'll get to that. How could anybody complain about Turkey? What is there to complain about? It's a mixture of tribalism and xenophobia. They just don't like the idea that it's a foreigner at the head of the table and making things happen. That's what it is, and their excuse is always the same. They don't like the idea that these major fights are happening in Saudi Arabia sometimes. Not always. Not every show that Turkey put together ended up in Saudi. He's done shows in the UK, he's done shows in the US, but the excuse is always the same. And my response is always the same. The fights that he's putting together wouldn't have happened without his involvement. What are we talking about? Fury versus Usyk? That wasn't gonna happen. Better B versus Bivol. That wasn't gonna happen. A good number of the fights that we've seen on his undercards would have been fights that were very difficult to negotiate, very difficult to put together because they involved fighters that are with different promoters. So in all likelihood, some of those fights wouldn't have happened either. Smith versus Buatsi. Anderson versus Bacoli. Anything involving Agit Kabayel, who has fast become the heavyweight division's bogeyman, a hot potato. The vast majority of those fights that Turki put together would not have happened on their own. They would not have happened without his involvement. So that when I see people belly aching about some of these fights ending up in Saudi Arabia, the alternative is no fight at all. Nothing happening at all. Would that be better? Better that the fights not happen than happen in Saudi? You're so angry that fights might sometimes be outsourced to that region when they weren't gonna happen in this one. Do you know how stupid you sound? No, they don't, because that's the thing about stupid people. They don't actually know that they're stupid. Now back over to Keyshawn, who let the cat out of the bag that Turki Alalshikh, he tried to make a fight between him and Teofimo Lopez, and Teofimo was persona non grata. He was not receptive to the fight. He wanted to focus on Boots.
I like that.
He calling this shit, right? Man, I couldn't believe this shit myself, right? So I hit him with, he don't know I'm there. So Turki like, yo, Key, I got somebody. No, I'm not Key. He said, yo, Tio, I got somebody here that said that'll whoop your ass. The next great. Tio like, all right, okay, we'll put him on the phone. Who is he? Let me see him. Woo. He don't know it's me though, right? So he go from smiling when I see him, he go from smiling to it's no lie, gang. So I'm like, yeah, I told you I was gonna meet you right here, right? Told you I was gonna meet you right here, right? Then I was like, he was just looking like, man, what you mean? I said, yeah, you got no choice but to fight me now. What's up? You got no choice but to fight me. Yeah. He said, I'm the champion. I always got a choice, bitch ass. Right? So I'm like, so Turki snatched the phone away from me, and he let me see how I'm gonna word this. He like, yo, Tio, Keyshawn, fight Keyshawn, fight Keyshawn.
He hyped it. Okay.
Tio say, no, Turki, you promised me Boots. You promised me Boots. What about the Boots fight?
Damn.
Turki say, what about the Boots fight? You got Keyshawn want to fight you right here. He said, no. Tio said, no, you promised me Boots, man. Boots. Everybody in that room was like,
oh my God. That's crazy.
For the same bread, gang. The same
crazy.
bread you gonna fight.
The same bread.
Nigga, yes. The same bread he's gonna take for Boots. He was like, Turki was like, fight Keyshawn. He's right here.
Yeah.
Just give me whatever.
So you think he ducking then, for real? That's ducking then.
That's scared.
But how could he be scared of fighting Keyshawn and be so receptive to fight a naturally bigger man in Boots? Is Boots not a riskier fight? Isn't that more dangerous? Well, it is, if you actually have to fight Boots. But I'm of the opinion that the whole time Teofimo Lopez was calling out Boots, it was with the expectation that he wouldn't get him. That's why he was calling him out, because he felt that Boots would be otherwise preoccupied with either unification matches or mandatories. It all sounds and looks good. I want to move up. I want to fight Boots. The whole time you figure that Boots is going to be busy anyway. Boots might be busy pursuing other belts or satisfying mandatories. Hell, he might end up leaving the division. That when you called him out, it was only because you figured you weren't going to get him, just like what you did with Terrence Crawford. So it all looks and sounds good, but you're really just using him as a shield. Now, the same Turki Alalshikh that would have paid you to fight Boots is offering you the same money to fight Keyshawn. What's the problem? Didn't Boots turn down the fight? Yes, he did. That was the story about a week ago, which we talked about here on the channel, but that's why Teofimo called him out. Because he figured he wouldn't get him. He figured that guy's got a lot on his plate, a lot of other stuff to do. That's the only reason Teofimo was so comfortable calling him out. Because he knew he wouldn't get him. You can get Keyshawn. And I believe Keyshawn Davis, by the way. I don't see or hear a liar in him. I think he's telling the truth. And I've always thought that Teofimo is deathly afraid of Keyshawn Davis. So Teofimo Lopez just walked away from a Devin Haney fight. And the same logic applies. You're telling me that you were willing to move up and fight as big a guy and as strong a guy as Boots, but you're walking away from Devin.
Huh?
If you're willing to fight somebody as big and strong, as dangerous as Boots, fighting Devin should be a walk in the park. If you really were willing to fight Boots, but because you're not... Black fighters intimidate Teofimo Lopez. They scare him. I don't care if he's become the poster child for pochos all around the country who like to drop the N-bomb whenever they're around their friends. He's a coward. So are you.
Black.
I think that Teofimo Lopez is deathly afraid of black fighters. Even boring ones like Devin.
Black.
It doesn't help that Keyshawn Davis beat up his daddy and Teo was too much of a chicken shit to do anything about it. He's afraid of black fighters.
Black.
He can act how he wants on social media. Talk that shit. You know Keyshawn Davis will turn your TV off. Knows it. Give me a reason. Give me an excuse for Teo not to fight Keyshawn Davis when the Boots fight is not available. You just walked away from Devin, so why wouldn't you fight Keyshawn? I don't understand. What's to understand? He's scared of black fighters. And you don't just get to go back to Top Rank and have them situate you because Top Rank has their own problems. We still don't know who their broadcast partner or partners are going to be beyond July. Now, you go back to Top Rank, you're no more safe there than you would have been with Turkey, because what Top Rank is going to try to do is put you in the ring with Brian Norman. Blah. I mean, you understand that, right? You don't have a cornucopia of options at Top Rank, and whatever Top Rank does, it will likely be for a lot less money than you would have made working with Turkey. Blah. And so I feel that the walls are closing in on Teofimo Lopez. This is a fighter who already rejected a Subriel Matias fight. He seems to have turned down a Devin Haney fight. He supposedly wants to fight Boots, but Boots isn't available one way or another. And now this. According to Keyshawn Davis, the same money that he would have got for Boots, he would have got for Keyshawn. So why wouldn't you take it? Blah. There's a lot of little Spanish guys. They like Teofimo. They like his racism. That's what they like about him. That is their rooting interest in this bigoted and cowardly fighter.
Keyshawn Davis would whoop his ass.
He knows it. Because I can't for the life of me understand how a fighter who is willing to fight Boots is not willing to fight Keyshawn Davis, a naturally smaller man, for the exact same money? Financed by the exact same guy. Just retire, Teofimo. He's a pain in the ass everywhere he goes. Top Rank, Matchroom, he doesn't seem to get along with anybody that he works with. He doesn't have a good working relationship with anybody that he's worked with or works with. Now you're rocking a boat over there with Turkey. You don't want to fight Devin, you don't want to fight Keyshawn. Just walk away. Just drop the WBO title, retire. Go into construction. Take all the money that you made from the sport of boxing, put it in your savings account, your little nest egg, your little retirement fund, and get yourself a regular 9-to-5, because you don't want to fight. And I'm not that pressed about your boxing career that I want to hear more about this. Just retire.
Listen, that Thurman fight might happen with Earl. That's all that they got left. They stiffed Thurman. He went all the way to Australia, cooked Brock Jarvis. He was expecting a Tim Tszyu fight, and now Fundora got it. Only way he gets it now is if Tim Tszyu wins and still wants to give him that fight. Pretty crazy, bro.
I kind of disagree with Nestor on this one, for a few reasons. For starters, it's not like they jerked Keith Thurman. He was actually trying to jerk them. I remember after he knocked out Brock Jarvis, right after that, he said that he was non-committal to the Tim Tszyu fight. He said he would be willing to entertain other offers for other fights right here in America, that if an offer comes across his table, he's not committed to the Tim Tszyu fight. In fact, if Tim Tszyu even had enough time to get a rematch with Sebastian, it's because Keith didn't make a commitment. If he would have went all in, then their fight would have got done sooner, it would have got announced sooner. In other words, he didn't jump on that opportunity, and after a while, the opportunity was no longer there. So once again, Keith Thurman is left in limbo, and Nestor's recommendation is a long-awaited showdown between him and Errol Spence Jr., but we all know what the problem with Errol Spence Jr. is. Errol is unofficially retired. We're coming up on 2 years since the Terrence Crawford fight, with no ETA on when Spence will return, no announcement of a new trainer that would be preparing him for a comeback, and a comeback, it only gets harder to come back the more time passes. But that's what's going on. So where Nestor makes the recommendation that they could still do a Spence versus Thurman fight, my question is, can they? And that's not all. I came across an interesting article that seems to be forecasting an ominous future for the PBC and their current relationship with Amazon Prime that may be set to end in the near future. Relevant portion of the article reads, Amazon's broader sports play is surging. A $1 billion per year investment in Thursday Night Football runs through 2033. Its new media rights deal with the NBA and WNBA kicks in next season, part of a sweeping 11-year, $76 billion deal alongside Disney and NBC. Regional simulcasts with the Yankees continue, and conversations are underway about joining Olympic coverage ahead of LA 2028. Amazon's current combat sports slate no longer fits this new direction. PBC is on its way out once its deal wraps. The focus now is on properties with scale, global pull, and advertiser confidence. None of which the PBC brings to the table. The article continues, that is why UFC is the real prize. According to recent reports backed by my sources, Amazon is freeing up capital to make a run at UFC's pay-per-view rights as part of TKO's upcoming media package. Everything else, including the boxing play, is window dressing. TKO is trying to bring its new boxing product into the conversation, shopping the September 13th Canelo vs. Crawford fight as a streaming tentpole. Mark Shapiro is pushing to trigger a bidding war between Amazon and Netflix, but Turki Alalshikh and Riyadh Season locked in the fight under the Sela banner after a reported meeting between Netflix, TKO, and Saudi officials went south. TKO was left on the outside. Dana White has since joined the promotional effort, trying to keep some presence in the room, but the control is not theirs. In reality, Riyadh Season and TKO Boxing are tagging along. UFC is the asset that moves markets. That is what Amazon wants. That is what everyone wants. Everything else is just along for the ride. So let's make a long story short. The PBC's time at Amazon is rumored to be coming to an end, and when it does, they're essentially being pushed out by Amazon to make way for UFC. And so they've been on the Amazon platform for a little over a year now. It feels like it's close to 2. Throughout the entirety of this tenuous deal, they have failed to make an impression, because if they did, then Amazon would throw them money and do everything they can to keep their content and keep them on board, that very soon, guys like Keith Thurman may not have a place to fight. Guys like Errol Spence Jr. may not have anything to come back to. So when Nestor makes the recommendation that they could always make Thurman versus Spence, it's not looking that way. They have only 2 flagship fighters in Gervonta Davis and David Benavidez. Gervonta, if he beats Lamont Roach, will probably go into a fight with Jake Paul, then sail off into the sunset. David doesn't move the needle. David doesn't sell that many tickets or pay-per-views. In so many words, there's not a lot there for Amazon to invest in anyway. Not a lot to salvage. And going to Amazon for the PBC was never a long-term solution.